Hello, my name is Raphael Hoekman. I'm Principal Cello of the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra and Cello Instructor at the University of Alberta. This is an instructional video about how to tune your cello. A lot of people try and use technology to tune their instrument, and I think that this is not necessarily the best idea for two reasons. Reason one is that when you use a tuner to tune, depending on the setting on the tuner, you could be tuning your instrument to tempered pitch, and tempered pitch is where we see the pitches being organized in like a keyboard or another fixed pitch instrument. The cello is not a fixed pitch instrument. It's an instrument that has a lot of variability of intonation. You may want to tune your cello to tempered pitch for certain situations, but that's a whole nother video. This video will be about how to tune your cello to just basic open fifths. The other reason I think technology is not such a great idea is because technology keeps you from using your ears to tune, and I really believe that when we play the cello or any string instrument, we should be using our ears as much as possible. In order to train our ears in all different situations, to discriminate pitch and discriminate everything, actually, you know, beauty of sound and phrasing and musicality, everything. Most people's ears are better than they think, and of course the more you do it, the more you'll get better at it. One of the first things we have to do when tuning the instrument is pick a pitch to tune to. The first pitch we often use is A. That's the note that's played at the beginning of every orchestra rehearsal and concert. When you're at home by yourself, there's a few different things you can do. You can just reach over and grab the A from the piano, or you can, you can, if you have perfect pitch, obviously, you probably don't need this video, except to maybe show to other people who don't have perfect pitch. If you have one of these chord metronome tuners or any other sort of tuner or tuning app, you can just use that to take an A. I can get a louder one off of my phone using YouTube, and here I have one that is 440 Hertz. It's a little louder. Now I'm going to talk for a minute about 440 Hertz versus 441 Hertz or 442 Hertz. When you're at home by yourself, it doesn't matter too much which A you choose, unless you know you're going to be in a situation where you are expected to tune to exactly 440 Hertz. If your orchestra tunes at 440 Hertz, you're probably best to tune that way most of the time, so that your instrument and you in your ears, of course, are not in a different sort of shock when you tune by yourself at home to 444. Really bright, and then all of a sudden you have to lower everything to play in the orchestra or with your string quartet or with piano, because you can't tune. Most pianos are tuned at 440. So for this purpose, we're going to tune to 440. 440 Hertz, by the way, is defined as 440 vibrations per second. So that's what that means. So I'm going to use this to get my A. And watch what I'm doing here. Okay, that's pretty good. Now what I did there was I actually pushed my cello onto the other side. And the reason I did that is because I was able to reach down and grab my tuner. I can't do it this way. I can't, it strains me to do that. So I put the cello on the other side. This is just for tuning. I don't play the cello this way. And then put the finger down here where I can reach the tuner, and then play the A and tune it at the same time. I can actually move the tuner back and forth, listening in real time to the pitch that I'm relating to. So again, I'm using my ear instead of using a tuner with a needle. Now that we've got the A, we can go ahead and tune the rest of the instrument, the other four strings. The other three strings, I should say, D, G, and C. And I do, this is my method. I can do this while using my very long arms. So what I did there was, using my ears, I listened to and played the two strings together, A and D. I tuned my D in tune to the A, and then I tuned my G in tune to the D, and then the C in tune to the G. Listening to make sure the fifths sound very open and perfectly in tune. How you know that they are in tune is if you hear it, you feel like very free, and there's no sort of overt darkness or overt lightness to the pitch. And so sometimes I like to think if it sounds too bright, you're kind of like this, and if it sounds too dark, it's kind of like this, a little bit like that. So I'll just do another little demonstration of tuning out of tune and really in tune, so you can listen to the pitches. I'm going to tune the A out and the D out. I'm going to detune everything here different ways, and we'll do that again. So again, first thing we do is we find the A, and I've got my A sounding here. So there I go. Pretty good. Then I tune the D. See how it was a little bit too sharp? We'll go sharp again, listen. See, it sounds too bright, as if my face is going like this. It's too bright. There it is. I feel good now. It's a little bit flat, right? It sounds a little dull. Something went hairy there, so I'm going to go back and check my A and my D. And I'm right, my D went down while I was tuning the G. It's a tough one. I go to G and I feel pretty good. Oh, it's really bad. It was really way too sharp. It sounded like again because I wasn't sure what happened. And I go back to the top, play the A. Good. So now what I did there was I was trying to show you a little bit what happens when the cello is really out of tune. I really moved the tuners a lot so that it was very, very out of tune. What happens is when you get your A and then you tune your D and you start changing the tension, what happens is the other strings go out of tune a little bit, or they move, they change tension as well. So when you go all the way down to the C, don't just assume that the whole cello is in tune. You have to go back up to the A and check, make sure you are there. You might have to get the A again from a friend or something if you're in the orchestra. It's like, oh, wait a minute, where did my A go? Oh, can you play it again for me? And then there you are, and then you can do that. Now, that is the method of tuning where you are able to tune in real time using, I do recommend that you learn to do this one way or another. Not everybody can do this position the way I do it because of their physique and the long arms I have, if you have shorter arms. Now there's another way to do it. A young student of mine showed me his way, and where you put the cello to the side like this, and then you can play at the same time and reach and around. And if you have troubles there, maybe you could just do it like this, and then there's different ways to do it. You find your own way to be able to tune at the same time. But sometimes that looks a little uncomfortable and feels a little weird, and so there are other ways to do it without tuning in real time that are pretty effective. The first method is just simply basically to again tune those open fifths, then let them ring and tune, reach down. And the trick is to let them ring. Sometimes what I see is people going like this, then they stop the sound and think for a minute and do that. It's not a good idea because it's really inefficient in terms of time, and plus it doesn't allow you to hear the pitch change either to the right place or the wrong place. So I'll do it again. What you do is you play the two open strings together. This is assuming you've already gotten your A for using the same method. So that's just open fifths. Same thing. G's a little bit flat. Like that now, and then again, it's really important. Let it ring and reach down quick. And if you're not sure which way it is, don't stop there and guess. Just play it really loud, let it ring and reach down. And if you're not sure, just go one way or the other and your ear will start to discriminate. Sometimes you just need to go a little bit too out of tune so that it really sounds bad, so that you know which way to go, rather than sitting there like thinking and that sort of thing. Now there's another second method which is useful, because sometimes playing those open fifths in the octave that they sound without doing anything to them can be a little bit difficult for us to hear. So another thing you can do is, depending on what level you are, I should explain where these harmonics are. So already my A and D are just a little bit off again, and from changing the tension. So if you're not an advanced player, I should show you where my hand is, right on the shoulder of the cello, and I can reach down the third finger, which is exactly halfway between the bridge and the nut. And if you move the finger around until you feel that harmonic, and you can do this, and then of course right beside it is the other harmonic on the D. So this is exactly one octave higher on the A string, one octave higher on the D string. So I think another thing is to, the second method is to use the open fifths and then the harmonics, and again let it ring. The harmonics allows you to hear it maybe slightly clearer, especially on the lower strings where the pitch is low and sort of muddled together. It's not so easy to hear, depending on your ear. So do it like this. Again, let it ring and tune it while it's ringing. That's not quite right. There. That's good. There we go. Now there's a third method that I don't use that much. Sometimes there's a thing where people use this harmonic and then this harmonic here. And like I said, depending on your level, we're using that first harmonic we talked about, where we're just the shoulder and we find the distance halfway exactly with our third finger, and then use the second finger together for the fifth. But this one is where we put our first finger in fourth position, where it would normally be playing 1/5 above the open string. In this case, we have an A here on the D string, so that is the same pitch. And I hear people doing this, and I think that can be an okay way to tune, but I feel like there's a little bit of a trick problem there because of the different color. This one's bright and this one's dark. Because of the different color, it may trick your ear into thinking that something is not quite the same pitch. And so I caution against using that or relying on that as a sort of a fail-safe way to tune your instrument. But one way you can do it is, instead of using the third finger, you can use the fourth finger on the harmonic A here. And if you play those two notes together, to make real true open fifths, those notes should sound exactly the same. And I'll detune it for a minute so you can see what it sounds like. You can obviously hear they're very out of tune and really clashing with each other. The other thing you can hear if you listen carefully is you can almost hear a rhythm. It goes da 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 da. It's really bad, so I'm going to tune it up. And again, let it ring. So I let it really sustain like this. hear those beats anymore, that sort of da 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 in the sound, then I know I'm pretty well in tune. So this one, I can hear a little bit of a beat in there because it's tuned. Right. So we did that now. So those are the three sort of methods. So we have the real time like this, like this, and sometimes you might want to use all three methods in one go because of this different situation you're in. You may be hearing some other noise, it may be distracting you, you may be interfering with your ear hearing the instrument, so you might want to hear it where you won't be able to play the open fifths so easily and hear them. So you might want to use all three methods. So let's say you're okay, it's time to play, and you're just there. Okay, let's play. There's that A. There it is, and then I'm back again, and then it's maybe I'm still slightly. Just a little fine tuning. It all sounds pretty good. So you do all those methods, and if one doesn't, one appeals to you in a different way, you can try them all three. Now, one thing I haven't talked about is using the pegs, because I've talked about using fine tuners, which is a very fine way to tune your instrument. I haven't talked about using the pegs. The pegs are what we use usually for, well, we have to use the pegs to change the string because we have to unravel all the tension. And the pegs are when when the cello has really fallen too far out of tune, or one string is tuned too far out of tune for the fine tuners to be of use. Or if we've run out of room with our fine tuners over time, sometimes that happens. You run out of room to either tighten or loosen your fine tuner, and you have to use the peg. So what I want to tell you about using the pegs is that you should really, I know some people like to do this. I don't like the lack of sort of control I have just having the cello like this. I like to, when I use the pegs, I really like to have the cello towards me and have it like this, so I can turn the peg very carefully by holding really close to it. Now the pegs are in there simply with friction, resistance holding it together, and the pegs are slightly smaller as they go in. So what you do is when you tune the pegs, you want to actually press inwards towards the cello like this. So I'm gonna tune the D string just a little bit down. So I got it there. I loosened the peg a little bit, and now I'm going to tune it back up, and I'll pluck it while I'm tuning it again, letting it ring. Always pluck it and let it ring so that you can hear what you're doing, and then you can tune. So you can do that, and once you get close, it doesn't have to be absolutely perfect, because you could sit there and like trying to make little adjustments with the peg. That's not really the good function of it. That's why we have the fine tuners, so you can just make tiny little adjustments with the fine tuners. If you like this video, you can share it and subscribe to it, and let me know in the comments what you think, whether I've left something out, some idea or some information, or whether you totally disagree with me or anything like that. That's totally fine too. We can start up a conversation. And if you're interested in some online lessons, you can contact me on my website, raphaelhoekman.com. And yes, see you next time.